Hello everybody. So this week we've been testing out a very important vehicle for a lot of families and a lot of people that tune into this channel. This is the Toyota Grand Highlander, and what we have is the Hybrid MAX variant. That's the one that is promising both a lot of power and great fuel economy, and we're going to put that second point to the test. We already know it has plenty of power, but does it actually deliver on the fuel economy front when we drive this back from Cincinnati to our home in Lexington? So let's go ahead and get to it. Now, before we go get gas and all of that, I do just want to talk about what's under the hood. Drew mentioned this is the Hybrid MAX, so it is quite powerful. 362 horsepower, 400 pound-feet of torque. This is the most powerful version of the Grand Highlander that you can get. You can also get a regular hybrid as well as a traditional 2.4-liter four-cylinder. Now, what's the EPA rated at? Well, it's rated at 26 city, 27 highway, 27 combined. So that's the number we're shooting for. Is it going to get 27 miles per gallon or better? That's what we're here to find out. So let's go ahead and get to the gas station. All right, time to fill her up. So this does use regular fuel. It doesn't have a popping cap. You have to do that from inside the vehicle. And then we've got the kind of traditional fuel cap here. I can't tell. I don't think there's any like hook. Is that a hook? Oh, there you go. Maybe not. It doesn't work that well, one way or the other. All right, so I'm going to put my card in and let's fill her up. Well, guys, we're off on our fuel economy test of this all-new 2024 Toyota Grand Highlander. Now, like we said, we're actually taking a pretty extensive road trip here. It's about an hour and 40 minutes away. We're coming from Cincinnati back down to Lexington, which is around 100 miles. So we're going to see how this Grand Highlander stacks up when it comes to that level of road trip. Is it going to get that EPA estimate of 27 mpgs? We're going to find out in this video. Now, of course, we just filled up at the gas station. The reason we did that is because we're going to manually calculate how much fuel, this Grand Highlander used by how much gas we, take when we go fill it back up. Yeah, as opposed to, following exclusively what the vehicle says, although we will keep you posted at various points of what the Highlander is reporting itself for fuel economy. And we'll follow, the speed limit during this test to try to give you a nice fair test on our way back. Now, I do want to point out a few different things. First of all, we are making this road trip at around 5 o'clock, so it's a little bit of a rush hour situation, at least getting to the interstate initially. We don't expect super heavy traffic, but I'm sure we will maybe run into a little bit of traffic along the way, which would, very much simulate what you guys might be doing on a day-to-day in the real world with this Grand Highlander, which is exactly what we are going for in this real-world fuel economy test. So guys, we are 0.3 miles from heading onto the, interstate portion of our drive. So I do want to just do a little bit of a check-in on how well this Grand Highlander is doing in the city portion. We've been going around 30 to 40 miles per hour, stop-and-go traffic here at, rush hour 5 o'clock. And so far, the vehicle is telling us it's getting an average of 23.5 miles per gallon. So I'll go ahead and snap a quick picture of that. But, 23.5 is what we're sitting at for our city portion there. And we're going to see how it does on the interstate going 70 miles per hour. I'm sure a lot of you guys who are looking to buy a Grand Highlander will be doing a lot of road trips. So you'll probably want to know what it's going to get on the highway when you're making a long road trip down to Florida or whatever for spring break. And now that we're on the interstate here, I do want to just also mention that we'll be doing a check-in every 25 miles roughly. So on our 100-mile road trip, we'll be doing, 4 different check-in periods to see how the Grand Highlander is doing fuel economy-wise. And, if you want to learn more about this Toyota Grand Highlander, I do want to point this out. We have a full review on the channel where we lived with it for the past 7 days. So if you want to learn all about the details, what our impressions were after 7 days, go check that video out. But I will say the ride quality in this Grand Highlander on the interstate is phenomenal. It's pretty hard to get a better vehicle than this for a road trip, that's for sure, especially with the amount of cargo space you have in the back. If you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, so check-in number 1. We have gone around 25 miles on our road trip, and most of that was done, fully on the interstate here. However, we did run into some traffic, so that simulates, your average interstate commute. Of course, you're going to hit some traffic every once in a while. So let's go ahead and do a check-in and see how our fuel economy has been. Drew, do you want to tell us?
23.4 miles per gallon.
Yeah, so at check-in number 1, we're sitting at 23. Actually, it just switched on us at the very end, 23.5 miles per gallon. It's been pretty consistent. We've been eyeballing it, the whole time since we taken off. That's pretty similar to what we were getting when we were just kind of cruising around the city before we got on the interstate. So far, the Grand Highlander has been consistently sitting around that 23, 22 mark, which is under what the EPA is estimating. So we're finding this pretty interesting. Of course, we're going to complete our 100 and some mile road trip and see what it ends up being. But overall, the Toyota is telling us it's getting worse fuel economy than what the EPA is estimating this vehicle to get. That's for sure.
All right, it's time for check-in number 2. So we've gone now at this point 50 miles into our journey.
Yep.
And the fuel economy average so far is 23.6.
7.
7, oh, it just changed.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Tries to play us.
Maybe because we're going downhill, but...
Yeah, 23.7. Previously, on the first 25 miles, we were at 23.5. So we're slightly eking up 0.2 miles per gallon on this leg. Let me go ahead and grab a quick picture of that. But actually, it went up to 23.8. So a little bit higher than what it was before. But overall, it's not too different. So we're staying at a pretty consistent figure here for what Toyota is saying, at least. Now, of course, as we get back to Lexington, we're going to fill the car back up and see, just how much gas it holds. We know exactly how long we've traveled, so that makes a very easy calculation to see, is this Grand Highlander, telling the truth as to the fuel economy? And if so, how is it going to rate against what the EPA is saying for this vehicle? I know this matters a lot to you guys because, the difference between 23 and 27 miles per gallon is a big difference, especially as you drive thousands and thousands of miles over your ownership. So we're hoping to get to the bottom of that, and, we'll check in and see in another 25 miles how this is holding up when it comes to the fuel economy. All right, check-in number 3. We're going to keep this brief because the car is 23.7 is our, number here. So it's not really varying much on our road trip. We've been doing mostly the interstate driving. I don't know why my camera is not getting that picture. There we go. 23.7 is what we're sitting at after around 78 miles of driving. We're getting close to that 100 miles, and we're going to see the official number and, of course, manually check it by how much fuel the Grand Highlander takes. So we have completed our fuel economy test, and we've gone 98.1 miles, so we certainly have really done the entire, loop all the way from Cincinnati back to Lexington, a pretty extensive road trip. Drum roll, please. what's the fuel economy according to the Grand Highlander?
All right, the Grand Highlander says 24.6 miles per gallon.
All right. Now, we went ahead and we filled back up. We topped it off. The first click is what we, calculate on. So, as far as how much gas it used across a 98.1 mile trip, we used 3.462 gallons. So, this is pretty simple math calculation here. I know math is hard, but this is a pretty easy calculation. So 98.1 miles divided by, we used 3.462 gallons. That means that our manual calculation is coming in quite a bit higher than what the Toyota is actually saying according to the gauge cluster, which is actually quite interesting. 28.33 miles per gallon is our manually calculated fuel economy for this Grand Highlander, which that is actually above the EPA estimate, whereas the 24.6 that the car is telling me is quite a bit below the EPA estimate. So
that's interesting to see that discrepancy. You don't usually see that big of a discrepancy. There oftentimes is a discrepancy, but not that big of one.
Yeah, that's 4 miles a gallon difference between what the car is saying and what we're manually calculating. The more accurate way of doing it is actually the manual calculation, because we know how much fuel went in, we know how much miles we drove. So that's a foolproof method. So 28.33 is what we're getting with this Grand Highlander. So as far as our real world fuel economy test conclusion, say the Grand Highlander is good. It is getting a little bit above the EPA estimate, which I think is a great thing, because this is very impressive fuel economy for this big of an SUV with this much horsepower. So that's really showing you that this Hybrid MAX powertrain is very efficient. Now, don't know why the Toyota estimate is being, a little conservative there at 24.6, but I guess don't believe your gauge cluster and manually calculate it yourself and see how much fuel you're using in this Grand Highlander would be the conclusion of this. You're probably using less fuel than you think, that's for sure. And I do also want to remind you, if you're looking to buy a Toyota Grand Highlander or any new vehicle, to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. Now, why you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price on your new vehicle. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealer negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description. But guys, that's going to be it for our real-world fuel economy test of this all-new 2024 Toyota Grand Highlander. If you enjoyed this content and want to learn more about the Toyota Grand Highlander, we have a full review on the channel about our 7-day impressions, all talking about the exterior, the interior, all the features and stuff. So you'll want to check that video out. You also want to check out some of our other car content, because we have a ton of stuff that I'm sure you won't want to miss out on. So be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. If you're already part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.